Let's practice talking a little bit about distribution and variability today. So remember that variability has to do with how spread out the data is. So a graph that is not variable or has a small variability is going to have a small range, and a graph with a larger variability or that's more variable is going to have a larger range. Okay, let's begin by looking at the distribution of each histogram. Okay, so that means we want to use words to describe the histogram. So if we look at this first one here, if I cut it down the middle, it doesn't look to me like it's really symmetrical. It doesn't look to me like it's skewed left or right. It looks to me like it's pretty unique. Okay, I could maybe say that there is a peak at grade C. I might say that there is a cluster at the B and C grades. Okay. If we move on and we look at the next one, I definitely think that this one has a tail going this direction. So we could say that that has a left skew, or it's skewed left. We could say that my peak is here between 17.5 and 19.5. I might also say that maybe I would call the cluster right here between 15 and 5/10 and 19 and 5/10. What I want you to do is take a minute or two, and I want you to go ahead and try to describe the rest of those. So go ahead and pause the video, and you use interactive notebook page, I think it's 12, not looking off the top of my head, but I believe it's a blue page, and I think it's page 12. All right, now you get a chance to do that work. Let's look. I said that the graph on the bottom left, so that would again be another histogram. I know these are histograms because they are bins and ranges of numbers down at the bottom. So if I look down at the bottom, I'll see that it's skewed left. I see there's a peak between 80 and 90. And then you may have said there's a cluster between 70 and 90. Maybe you stretched it out a little bit more and said 60 to 90 or even 60 to 100. On the right, we have a right skew. There is an outlier way out there on the right. The peak is from 1.6 to 1.8. And I said there was a cluster from 1 4/10 to 2 4/10. Now, this worksheet also asks us to estimate the median and the mean. The reason why we have to estimate it is because it's a histogram. When I look at a histogram, one of the nice things about a histogram is that it kind of helps to group numbers together for me, and I don't need to have this big, huge graph, especially if I have a lot of data. The problem with a histogram, though, is that I don't have any specific numbers. So I know approximately where they are, but I don't know exactly where they are. So if I focus on the median right now, the median is the middle 50%. So if I come here to my first graph, they have the percents written here for me, which is really nice. So I need to, if I were crossing out lowest and highest, I'd cross out a percent and a percent and a percent and a percent, and I would keep going, okay? That would take me forever. We want the middle 50%. So when I do that, I'm going to add 12 and 29. That adds up to 41. So then I need an additional 9. So my median would be somewhere in here, which puts it about somewhere here in the C range. So that would be my median. Okay, let's move over to the next one. Let's find the median. So I'm going to look here. This looks like it's about 1 number. It looks like it's about 4. Oops, this is a 1, sorry. Here's 6. Here's 13, 15, and looks like, maybe we'll call that 19. Not 100% sure. So let me move this down a little bit. Sorry, guys. So if I cross off, I could cross off. So each of these represents a number, each box. So I could hypothetically draw all these lines here. It would take me forever, but I could. Okay, and I could cross off my lowest and my highest, my lowest and my highest. and my lowest and my highest. And I could keep doing that. I might be here all day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these 19 in this bin, and then I have to get 19 below. So 1, 2, and 4 is 6. 6 and 6 is 12. I need to get to 19. So that means 19, take away 12. That means I need 7 more. So I'm going to get rid of these 7 here, and I'm left with 6 still here. Okay? If I get rid of these 6, then that means I need to get rid of 5. See how my lines are here? And then a 6th one here. If I get rid of 6 from 15, that means that I have 9 left. So if I take 9 and split it in the middle, it's going to do 4, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. My middle number, it's tough to see, is right in here. So I'm going to say my median is somewhere here between 17.5 and 19.5. Okay, so that puts my median, oops, I should do it in yellow, about right there. Okay, pause the video, go ahead and you try. Okay, ladies and gents, I crossed off 1 and 1, and I worked my way to the middle here. I found my median to be approximately right here. It doesn't have to be perfect. So closer between 70 and 80, closer to 80. And then when I did the other ones and I crossed them out, I got my number to be right here where this little circle is. So that would be approximately 2.0-ish. So somewhere right in here where that thick line is. Okay. Last thing we need to look at is we need to look at the mean. So we have to estimate the mean. When, this is where our words are going to come in pretty handy. When we have a symmetrical distribution and it's not skewed one way or the other, then our mean is going to be somewhere in the middle, okay, near the median. So for this first one here, it's not really pulled one direction or the other. It might be a little bit lighter on the D and F side, but again, we don't really know what the numbers, like the percentages are in each of these columns. So because it's not too far skewed, we're going to just put a circle here in the middle saying that the mean is probably somewhere in the middle, very close to the median. Okay? If you look at the second one, because it is skewed to the left, our numbers tend to shift towards the tail or towards the outlier. So my median is that yellow line, which means that we were going to assume that our mean is going to get pulled a little bit to the left. We look at the third one. Again, there's that tail. My mean is getting pulled to the left of that line, which is my median. There's an outlier. My mean is going to get pulled. And on the back of the worksheet, both of these histograms, it is possible to consider that maybe they would be symmetrical. If you look here at the one on the left, it does look like that these two are within a few of each other. And then again, the outer two bins are within a few of each other. Now this is a little tricky. They didn't technically follow the rules because this first bin is a range of 20. The other ones are a range of 10. So it does make this one a little bit more difficult. Then over here on the right, again, we have 8 and 10, so they're pretty close to each other. And then we have 5 and 3, which are pretty close to each other. And then we have bins of 3 and 2. So again, you probably could possibly say that it's symmetrical. We're looking at a peak here at 75 to 80, and then maybe a cluster in the middle there. If we look at 2 more, you're going to see I crossed off lowest and highest till I got to about right here, closer to 30 than 21. And for this next one, you're going to see that I crossed off lowest and highest. And I did an example here. I drew all my lines across. So I broke this into each individual block. Okay, so I crossed off 1 here. I'll show you in a different color. 1 here and 1 here. And lowest and highest and lowest and highest, and I kept going lowest and highest. So I crossed them off one by one. When I did that, I ended up right here. So my number is a little bit closer to 75 than it is to 80. Okay, Let's flip back to the front page. This one is relatively symmetrical, so it'd be safe to say we can put the mean around the middle. And again, relatively symmetrical, we're going to put the mean somewhere here in the middle because we don't exactly know all the numbers. So therefore, we had to take our best guess. So if it's skewed left or right, you're going to pull the mean towards the tail. If it's symmetrical, it's going to be pretty close to the median. Okay, now we get a chance to look at some distribution. We're going to practice just a little bit more. Okay, guys, this is really tough. I told you I took statistics in college. We're doing the best we can. Okay, let's review these three words here. Center is the same word as my median. Spread is very similar to my variability or my range. It's kind of tough for me to squeeze it in there, sorry. And then my shape is my distribution. So let's look at some of these. So my center, whoo, guys, this is a little bit easier. It is a dot plot. So I can cross off lowest and highest, and lowest and highest. I'm going to cross off 3 and 1, 2, 3. Here's 1 and here's 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 1, 1 and 1. Hot diggity dog, I have 2, which means that my middle number is 19 plus 20. I'm going to add them up. I'm going to get 39 and divide by 2. Hopefully some of you already knew it was 19 and a half or 19 and 5/10. My range or my spread is taking my maximum minus my minimum. And when I do that, I get an answer of 6. So that's my variability. It has a pretty low variability. It's not very spread out. And finally, my distribution. Let's take a peek at that. If I were to karate chop this in the middle, what do you think? Is it pulled one direction or the other? Okay. Or is it symmetrical? Okay. It is kind of relatively symmetrical, but it does kind of shift a little bit to, it's a little bit off center. Like if you do go here at 19, then this is much taller than that. But if you were to kind of eliminate it and look at it like this, just this little extra point here at 16, it is relatively symmetrical. It's just a little bit off center, so we can't really call it skewed. We could maybe talk about there's a peak at 20, so we call that peak my mode, just a friendly reminder, it's my most. We could maybe say that there's a cluster from 19 to 20. Let's look at another one. This is my histogram. So remember, histograms are a little bit trickier because we don't know all the numbers. Okay, so if we take a peek at this one, and actually I'm not sure why we are taking a peek at this one, because if I recall, this is exactly the same as one of the other graphs on the other page. So we are going to skip that one, folks. No need to do that. We're going to just put a big old X through it. Okay, we already talked about the center. We tried to find the median. We didn't talk about the spread. So I guess we could really quickly. It's 100 minus 20, and we get 80. Now here's the tricky part about this, is if I look closely at it, really my highest number might not be 100. It might actually be closer to 90. And my smallest number might not be close to 20. It actually might be close to 30. So the lowest number that my range could possibly be could be 60, but it could be closer to 80. So that one's a little bit tough, again, because I have those bins in the histogram. Finally, if I flip to the last page, take a minute. Why don't you go ahead and you can ignore the boxes that are on there. I apologize for those. I'm not sure why we got floating boxes in it. But take a minute to go ahead and see if you can find the center or the median, the spread, which is the range, and the shape, which is the distribution. If you had a chance to practice this, you can see I crossed them out. My center is at 3. My spread was 10 minus 1, which is 9. And now I did say if you look at starting here at 3 and you kind of go in either direction, it is relatively symmetrical here around 3. You can see I wrote it like that. But then we also have this guy out here, which is an outlier. Remember that outlier does pull the mean. So if my median is right here, my mean is going to get pulled a little bit towards the outlier. Okay? I also wrote that there's a peak at 3. Okay, and then finally our last one. If you look, the center is at 5 when I cross them all off. My spread is 13 minus 1, so that gives me 12. And I said that there was a peak at both 4 and 7. There is an outlier out here, and we see a gap in between here as well. Okay. Now, I guess we could probably say that that mean will pull just slightly, because of these guys here, to the right of the median. We'll keep practicing this, guys. It's a tough skill, one that's really tricky to kind of think about, so you're doing a great job.